Welcome to the webinar on supercharging your cybersecurity product with OPSWAT OEM offerings. My name is Chris Syler. I'm the OEM Solutions Architect, and I will be presenting you some of the technologies that we have available to make your products better. To begin with, OPSWAT has been in business since around 2002. In 2004, we released the first OEM product to our customers, and this product was used to be able to do device posture checking on endpoints to make sure that those endpoints were working correctly. So some of those checks were checking the anti-malware on a system, the firewall, making sure it works correctly, making sure the device is encrypted. That has been since integrated into many industry products that are well known across many different types of cybersecurity products. Around 2008, we introduced a multi scan technology. We call that Meta Defender. It allows you to pass in a file and be able to scan multiple AV engines using multiple AV engines to be able to determine if that file has malware or not. We also introduced some sanitation technology. Around 2018, we extended our SDK to include vulnerability and patch management. Since then, we also acquired a sandbox product in 2021. In general, we believe we have around 200 million endpoints using our Endpoint SDK to make their products better. Some of the vendors that use our product include Ivanti, Palo Alto, F5, and Versa. They all use their product to be able to use a device posture check or to improve patch and vulnerability detection. Our Endpoint SDK is actually an endpoint component. So that means that you would install this and use it on an agent, a browser, something that is running on a user's endpoint. And what we cover on that is endpoint compliance, which is the device posture check. And we also have a patch and vulnerability detection capabilities. And lastly, something called App Remover. As far as the other technology is concerned, we have file analysis tools. And this is a server-side product where you pass us a file and we'll do analysis on that file to determine based on threat intel, does it contain malware? Or we'll scan across multiple different AV scan engines, or we'll do a dynamic analysis with our sandbox. In addition to the analysis, we also have the ability to sanitize it with our CDR product or detect if any data is being leaked from your organization. All right, diving deeper into our Endpoint Security SDK, there are a number of use cases that you could use our SDK for to improve your product. For instance, if you're just barely starting your endpoint product, you can use us for application discovery or inventory discovery. We'll discover over 5,000 different applications, categorize them, and be able to even do further checks. For instance, if that particular application is running correctly in certain cases. Or you can use us for the posture check, which many vendors do to make sure, for instance, if the anti-malware product is working correctly on your endpoint. Now, many vendors would like to be able to do a patch or vulnerability assessment product. This is definitely a use case that you can use, especially with what we're seeing in Europe, where vulnerability assessment is becoming a requirement. And lastly, device trust is sort of just a combination of all these different technologies put together into a type of single type of industry called device trust. And that will go ahead and do posture checks. It'll check applications, it'll check vulnerabilities, and it'll be able to help you quickly decide overall, is this device trustworthy? Now, the modules that we do have are device compliance, patch, vulnerability assessment, and app remover. You can license all these from us, or you can license just one or two. The device compliance module in general provides different application discovery and it has it categorized. So in this example, you can see using the endpoint security score, that we check different categories of products. So we'll check, for instance, is the device encrypted? Is the firewall running? And this is going way beyond just like a normal OS check. We'll check over, for instance, 200 different anti-malware products to make sure that that anti-malware product is working correctly. And then we dive deeper into it to know that no threats were found or that real-time protection is enabled. As you can see here, we support over 5,000 applications. And this sort of gives you an example of some of those categories: anti-malware, encryption, firewall, etc., that we will detect. Now, this product does run across multiple applications. It will run across Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it is very simple to integrate into your product. It's a JSON-in, JSON-out product, so it's very language agnostic. So you can pretty much write it in any program language and be able to use this technology that we have taken and written over the last 20 years and invested probably over 200 man years of R&D in. Now, the next product that you may be interested in is our vulnerability assessment. We currently identify CVEs, CVSs, includes severity, descriptions, titles for more than 50,000 different vulnerabilities. And we have over 100,000 mappings of applications to CVEs. We also do zero-day detection. So that means, for instance, if Firefox releases a vulnerability and it's in the news or it's in Twitter, those types of vulnerabilities will also be included in our feed. So your customer is receiving the latest data needed to be able to know that their environment has vulnerabilities. And any vulnerability product, you want to make sure you actually remediate it after you discover those different vulnerabilities that may exist. And we have patching capabilities. We currently patch over 300 different applications, providing you URLs, install scripts, an API capable of being able to deliver those applications to those endpoints and report back on whether that endpoint has been remediated of any particular vulnerabilities. And now this doesn't only include vulnerability remediation, but we also have fresh installs. So if you want to, for instance, install Google Chrome, we can allow you to do that even if the machine does not have Google Chrome. To help you get started, we have many applications available on GitHub. This, for instance, is an example of an application that has the full source code available that uses our SDK for doing actual vulnerability and patch detection. You can see in this case, we're missing many patches, and there's some actual CVEs found across some of these different products. The last component that I would like to discuss in our SDK is our App Remover product. The App Remover product is used by most of our partners for removing either a competitive application or sort of falling in that device trust scenario where you say you want to have no applications, for instance, running that are like not supported by the current organization. For instance, if you're a Firefox only browser shop and you have Google Chrome, we have the capability in allowing you to remove Google Chrome. And we have this ability for around 1,000 different applications. And those two use cases are quite oftenly used as you try to get into this device trust category. Now that we have covered the endpoint security products, let's dive a little bit more into our server side products that we have available in our file analysis solutions. Some of the use cases that we cover with this particular product is that we have the ability for email security gateways. As attachments come through, you may want to know, is there any malware being delivered through your email system? Or a file storage solution like OneDrive or Google Drive. If you have your own file drive story or you're saving important files, you may want to make sure that those files that you are saving do not contain any malware in them, or that no data is being leaked that could be confidential for your organization. Recently, we've seen a big uptick in the software bill of materials. So this is if you're actually developing your own product, you want to be able to quickly identify, is there any malware that's been included in some of your third party libraries that you're using? Or if someone in your organization has accidentally downloaded some malware that's now part of your build system. And then collaboration tools. If you're using Teams or Zoom, if you share files between the systems, you may want to make sure there is no malwares or data being leaked as you share that with different organizations during your collaboration and meetings. In general, what we see is that for most malware detection, it's sort of a pyramid you go through. At the top layer, you'll do a reputation check. This will be something that can be quickly checked with a hash, and you'll be able to determine, does the file contain malware or is it no good or bad? The second pass that you normally do is you'll want to do a static analysis, pass it through an anti malware engine. And so with OPSWAT, not only do you have one anti-malware engine you can pass it through, but we have multiple anti-malware engines, and you're going to get more results, better results, less false positives by having more anti-malware engines that you actually pass this through. And if you're still needing to do further analysis and get indicators of compromise for why a file may have malware, you'll want to pass it through a dynamic engine. And that one will actually run run that file. It's going to run the macro, it's going to run the JavaScript. It will check inside that file to see if there's any malware or ill intent that is going to happen. To begin with, we have a threat intelligence solution, and we have hundreds of millions of hashes that we have gathered over the years as we've sent them through multiple scan engines. And so we easily have this ability to be able to take a hash, run that hash against our system to find out quickly, has this is this known malware? Has anyone actually, discovered this as malware? And you'll be able to find out which engines have found that particular file to have malware in it, what was the severity, and also you'll be able to figure out what type of malware that was. And as we discussed earlier, we have the ability to look through multiple AV engines. And so in our case, you take that particular file and pass it into our scan engines, and we'll return you back a report of anything that did detect malware if it was malicious activity that was intended with that particular file. Now, OPSWAT recently acquired a sandbox technology in around 2022. And this technology was written by someone who formerly came from multiple sandbox vendors and wanted to improve upon that technology and make it not only find particular malware that was evasive, but also make the technology a lot faster and more in, not resource intensive, but actually make it so that your resources were not being used as much, because sandbox technologies do require quite a bit of resources, as each file requires a VM to be run to be doing analysis on that file. So what we found is with this technology, we're about 15 times faster, 100 times more resource efficient, and we can scan about 25,000 files a day with a single instance. In general, we're seeing that if you just replace your sandbox technology that is currently taking up a separate VM for each file and just run the cost analysis across AWS, you'll see that the OPSWAT sandbox will save you millions of dollars depending upon how many files you are submitting. It does support 50 different types. It does have technology in it to be able to detect geofencing defense. And because part of this technology is advanced emulation engines, it will go down multiple code paths to find out, is there any ill intent happening? Even though there may be a sleep or something put in it to evade a sandbox, we'll go down those code paths to make sure that, hey, what's happening after the sleep and be able to give you whether that was something that appears suspicious or not. Now, there's a couple of other things that we do too. We'll do QR detection, brand detection. For instance, if you are trying to access the FedEx websites, we'll be able to determine, hey, the particular website coming in claims to be FedEx, but we're seeing that that doesn't match up with what we think FedEx will be, and we'll be able to detect that that's a phishing attack. And as I said before, we give it many IOCs back. So you can then determine from that what type of activity was happening with that particular piece of malware. It's easily accessible via REST API so that you can go ahead and do any of these behaviors that we talked about. With the reputation service, you can quickly use this API to be able to send a hash and get the result back. You can also go ahead and post the file and use it for a sandbox analysis. And you could do all three in once if needed with our technology, depending upon how you want to use it and what your use case is. Now, we did talk about a couple of their file analysis tools that are available beyond just detection. One of them is our CDR, which in our case means content disarm and reconstruct. What this is doing is it will take a file and we'll look at that file, inspect it. So if you, for instance, have a Microsoft Word document or an Excel document, inside that document, it can have macros, it can have hyperlinks, there may even be video. And so our technology, what it'll do is it'll go through and remove anything that is going to cause malicious behavior or will cause ill intent on your organization. And so what you see here is that we pass that through our technology. Macros are removed, hyperlinks are regenerated or redirected, video technology is sanitized, etc. We currently support this across 150 different file types, and we do 200 different file conversions. It's very fast. It's going to be almost as fast as a static analysis and definitely a lot faster than any sandbox technology. And what we did recently is we asked SE Labs to take a look at the OPSWAT CDR technology. And we were the first ones to come back with a 100% protection score from SE Labs, which means that it did everything that it was expected to do. And so we are very excited about this technology. And it's a technology that really does enforce that nothing that is going to cause ill intent will be passed to your customers. The last thing that I would like to discuss is our data loss protection. So we currently have a proactive DLP engine that will look at different types of information and be able to say, okay, is there a credit card that is going to be leaked outside the organization? Is there a social security number that may be leaked out? We have used regexes in the past for being able to do this detection. But most recently, we have started integrating in AI technologies. And so we not only will just do like a regex check on some of this, but we'll be able to use machine learning to be able to find out, is there a credit card leaking? But it could be any type of credit card from different organizations, from different countries. And like for instance, with the social security number, it could be national IDs from Germany, England, whatever. We will detect those based upon our AI learning to be able to know quickly that there is data being leaked from your organization. And this is just an example. So we'll do OCR technology on it. You can pass in your passport number or pass in your ID, and we'll be able to say, oh, look, this is personal information. What should we do with it? We should block this from going to the sender. We have different rules that allow you to do different behavior. Thank you so much for joining this presentation. If you do have any additional questions, please feel free to use the QR code and ask us for additional information. And we'll reach out to you to be able to help you to be able to find a solution for your product. Thank you very much.